It's Tuesday and it's time for Falcon Focus. Welcome to this week's edition of Falcon Focus. We're back and ready to go here in the winter time. This is episode number 9 here in season number 3. My name is Matt Mendelin, and segment number 2, we turn our attention to women's basketball as they prepare for their home opener against the CCIW's North Central College Cardinals. That is coming up on Wednesday here inside the John Book Fieldhouse, and we'll talk with Casey Kleiner, a brand new assistant to the women's basketball team. But first, we recap the field hockey season that was with the only head coach in the field hockey program existence, that being Sam Schessel, kind enough to join us here on Falcon Focus as field hockey just completed its 6th season and tied the program record with 7 victories. And Sam, I want to begin there because for me it's hard to believe, and I have to believe it's hard for you to believe. It's been 6 seasons already of field hockey. I mean, the time has been flying by.
It really has. It's as long as sometimes the seasons might feel, when they're done, it's kind of sad, but it's a bittersweet because you're happy of everything that we've accomplished, but also, looking forward to the next season already as well.
And the plus side is getting back to somewhat of a normal schedule and playing here again in the fall time, that for field hockey. And as mentioned, finishing 7-11, the 7 wins tying the program record. When you reflect back on the 18 matches that were played, how would you summarize this season?
This season was definitely full of challenges, like I mentioned earlier. Right from the beginning, I think every coach and every program has probably gone through that or will go through that this year, just being post-COVID and what it is. But those 7 victories, and even the losses that we had too, some tough losses, some really close ones. Really, our players really stepped up, and we played the best with what we've had each week, depending on injuries and things like that. So really proud of the team and all that we've accomplished, and I think that's a great record, and just really proud of them coming out on the other side of that after everything that we've been through the past 2 years.
Well, and you talk about that. What were some of the challenges? Were there challenges just with the quick turnaround going from playing a shortened season in the springtime to all of a sudden a quicker off season and right back into the fall season you go?
Yes, I do think that was a little bit of a challenge for some of our younger players. Last year we had a big freshman class, and then this year they were sophomores, but hadn't had that real full season. So I think that was a bit of a, they had to get accustomed to that and to what a regular season would look like as far as like the travel and, and just the day-to-day routines.
Speaking of challenges, how challenging is it in the way the schedule played out? The way the season ended, you had 3 consecutive matches against the eventual tournament champs from Rhodes. Just the challenges of playing a team, okay, not only twice back-to-back in regular season play, but then seeing them again in semifinal play. Is it challenging seeing the same team, especially that caliber, 3 times in a row? Does it make it easier, obviously preparing, knowing kind of what to expect?
Yeah, so the preparation was definitely a little bit easier because, for example, we played a really close game with them that Saturday, our conference game before the conference tournament, and super hyped, and then didn't have too many things to tweak the next day. Unfortunately, we just didn't have as many legs, but that was, and then preparing then for the conference tournament, we could just rewatch a lot. We did a lot of our own self-critiques for our own players during that week, and then we pretty much knew what they were going to bring. We knew they were talented, knew they were fast, but we also love playing those types of games, so it just makes us play better. I think there was definitely challenges with playing that third team, but I would say there was more advantages as far as knowing how to prepare and knowing what we were going to expect from them.
When we take a look at the schedule, a good balance this season. I know that's been an obstacle in years past to trying to find home dates, and this season, 9 of the 18 were at Thomas Feeney Stadium, where the Falcons went 6-3. Are there still a lot of obstacles in getting home dates? Is that still something that you're battling now, 6 seasons in?
I would say a little bit here and there. There are some teams, that don't necessarily have the money to do like return trips and stuff. But for the most part, like in our conference, we're doing 50-50 home and away. And then in, our other regional games, a lot of them do return. So we'll go there one year, they'll return the next year. So it's just kind of how it plays out. This year we were obviously a little bit more home heavy, which was awesome. Mm-hmm. And, next year how it's panning out, we might be a little bit more travel heavy, but we're still working on getting some more of home games. And then obviously the addition of Marion really helps with getting some more home games right up the road. So
Yeah, how exciting is it to see, in an era where it seems like some programs are maybe deleting or just kind of at a standstill, to see a school like a Marion, obviously location-wise it's great for the Falcons, but to see field hockey popping up at some of these other places.
Yeah, it's awesome. We're very excited just because, Wisconsin doesn't have a lot of high school teams. So it is, I would say, a little bit more difficult area as far as recruiting, just because players have to travel from a little bit further away. But just, for the sport in the state, like now there's two places where those high school players can come watch college games. And hopefully that will help increase the number of girls that want to go out at the high school level and things like that. And we keep pulling from teams all around the area, like all around the United States, actually. So it gives those players another, one extra place for somewhere to play.
And, of course, when we talk about, the challenges of maybe finding home dates or lack thereof now at this point, it was the Falcons' turn this year to host the Southern Athletic Association tournament. Did so November 5th through the 7th. What went into hosting the tournament? How excited were you to get that opportunity to show off this campus to the entire conference?
Yeah, we were very excited. It was a little stressful on, just on our end,
Sure.
just making sure everything was going right. And we, fingers crossed that we, leading up to it, we didn't want to have any snow or anything like that, which obviously in Wisconsin you always have to kind of think about. But we had the perfect weather. We had 65 degrees. And I think all the coaches were worried about coming up here, bringing their teams up here and playing in the snow. And we probably had the nicest weather for the tournament that we've had in my 6 years in Wisconsin. So I think it's, that was pretty cool. And it was awesome. Like, I do get excited bringing other teams out here because Wisconsin is such a beautiful place, and Concordia in general, just being right on the lake. So always tell the teams, go take your players, go over to the lake, take a team picture, and things like that. So it was definitely really nice to not have to worry about, the travel, the meals, all that stuff. And this weekend 2 weekends ago, and we could just play. So that was such a huge advantage for us, and it was awesome.
And overall, I'm guessing the feedback was great.
Yes, and we got a lot of feedback from you. So,
Oh.
Yep, the coaches and the visiting parents love hearing you and whoever else did the commentating for the games. They always say that Concordia does a great job. So
it's great to hear. You talk about, the SAA tournament, and obviously as this program continues to grow, you want to be in that championship matchup. Obviously, it didn't happen this past season, but you look at that as a positive experience now. Okay, you're not in the championship matchup, and obviously you hope to get there one day, but to now show your players, okay, it's center against Rhodes. This is what we aspire to be. To kind of take that in firsthand, to kind of see it firsthand, as you guys did on that championship Sunday.
Yes, and we made them watch that game and reminded them this is where we want to be. This is what we're working for. We definitely cannot be satisfied. We didn't not have the greatest finish to our season. But the players we have are really dedicated. The players we have coming in so far are awesome, and want to work hard, and we want that top spot. So we're coming for them.
I was gonna say, and you guys are close. I mean, there's no doubt about it. When you look at the progress this program has made, even with that first senior class that was so good, losing those seniors, but finding a way to reload, rebuild. When you look back at this season, are there one or two matches that maybe stand out among the rest, and you go, what, that's probably a good defining moment of what this season was all about?
I would, yeah. I mean, there was probably some really tough games. I think, and for me, it's the tough games that I enjoy, even though it's not always a win. But I would say we played, so a little backstory, we played Roanoke, a man down after we had played Center, a top 20 team, a man down, because we had some COVID issues that week, and so we were just a man down, and we played. So this was our second game of the weekend in less than 24 hours, man down. And a little bit of a rough game, but we got a goal out of it. And I think that was, really shows that our team never stops. We're going to keep working until that final whistle. And, no matter what you throw at us or what is thrown at us in general, we're going to keep working and eventually come out on top. And I think the second game would be Susquehanna. They were also they were getting nods for the top 20 in the nation. They're also another regionally ranked team in their region out in Pennsylvania. And that first quarter, I think it was awesome. Like we had corners, we had shots on goal. They were definitely very talented, but like we held our own against them. So I think just seeing our team able to play at that level, no matter if it was just for the first quarter or however long it was, like we held our own, and that shows a lot of promise in my eyes as a coach. So was excited about those games.
And a number of players receiving accolades, a number of players stepping up, even beyond the list that I'm about to mention. But 5 players, that's a program record, were named to the All-SAA team. And I want to just point out those 5 and get your thoughts on their play. And we'll start with goalkeeper Emily Bentley. She was the SAA Defensive Player of the Year after also being on the All-Tournament team. 162 saves, 6 shutouts. What did you see from Bentley this season?
She was awesome all season. She was our most consistent player and our most level-headed player. She's one of our captains, which is, hard to do from the goalkeeping position, to be level-headed after you get scored on and things like that. But she really held it together and really, commanded her circle, and commanded the team at in between quarters and at half times and stuff like that. So she did awesome, and she deserves every award that she got. She worked her butt off this year.
You had Annalicia Abella, first-team All-Conference selection, 3 goals, couple of defensive saves. Her play.
Yeah, so she, one of our strongest defenders for us, and she had to, after we had some injuries and things like that, she had to step up on the offensive side of things, on our offensive corners as the main striker. And just, we even put her towards like a center defensive mid towards the end of the season as well. And she really stepped up, no questions asked, and obviously got it done for us that way too, as far as scoring some goals too.
Yeah, and you had Lori Pizzak, who was first-team All-Conference after being second-team All-Conference back in 2019. She had 3 goals and 4 assists.
She is just an amazing all-around player. And, pretty much after every game, all of the coaches, no matter if it was SAA coaches or out-of-conference coaches, have always commented on her and her play. She's she's just a natural athlete, sees the field very well, distribution skills all over the field. So she really sets up the plays offensively and even defensively is like the kind of there as far as like in the midfield is the first line, one of the first lines of defense too. So she's just that gritty, all around, stud athlete.
And you never know, when you bring a freshman in, how that transition is going to go, how long it may take for an athlete to make that transition from the prep level to the collegiate game. But Paige Armijo coming up big. She was a second-team All-Conference selection as a freshman of the team with 16 points, 7 goals, couple of assists. Great, piece of the puzzle when looking toward the future.
Yes, she is awesome, and she's one of those kids that will just do whatever you tell her to. We've had some games that we kind of put her back at midfield as well, just because she is a strong player, and we had to, we needed some help in the midfield as well. So, but we could also always rely on her to find the back of the net. So she did awesome, and we're very excited to see her develop too, and as a forward and bring in more forwards with her.
And also on that list was Abby Mcgee, who was a second-team All-Conference selection. She had 6 defensive saves, also had 1 goal and 5 assists.
Yeah, she's another one of our very gritty defenders, and one of those hardworking, does whatever you tell her to. And she also stepped up offensively as well. For us, when we, especially she was our insert on offensive corners, so that's how she got a bunch of assists. And I think did she have a goal too?
Yeah, she had 1 goal, yeah.
So she was just another all-around utility player that we could use. We really relied on her in the backfield with her defensive skills, but then also, she was able to get it done for us offensively as well.
And, of course, now it's the off-season for field hockey. What's the focus during this off-season? When do you start, team activity again in preparation for next year?
So they're already starting this week with Coach Aaron with some lifting and some speed and agility. They'll do that 4 times a week. And then, as far as captain's practices go, they'll use probably Catalyst if it's cold out, get some touches in on there. And then we'll look to start our season probably at the end of March. We already have a play day 7-on-7 tournament lined up for April. So focus on the off season is getting faster, stronger, lots of core work, lots of footwork. And like I said, we're not satisfied. So we're definitely hungry, and we want to build that strength and, 6 skills just all around. We just want to be better and really push ourselves to hit our goals. Just
finally then, I'm always curious from a coaching, standpoint, recruiting-wise. And when you start looking ahead, you look at this roster and, the majority, if not just about everybody on this roster, has the ability to come back next year. How does that affect, or how do you go about then approaching recruiting, knowing that there's not a lot of holes that you have to fill per se for next season?
Right, and we're very fortunate with that, and especially returning Emily, and we have our very strong junior class as well. But we also do want to bring in a bigger class of freshmen because we know that our juniors will be seniors next year, and we don't, we want to make sure that those incoming players get some experience before relying on a big freshman class in 2 years. So yes, it is a little maybe less stressful that we have so many returners, but we also again aren't satisfied and want to have want to make sure that we're covered as far as injuries go and things like that, and want to have that healthy competition within our squad as well.
Well, Sam, as always, thanks a lot for your time. Enjoy your off season. I know you don't get a lot of downtime, but enjoy the off season, and we look forward to seeing field hockey again in action in springtime, but again in the fall.
Sounds great. Thanks, Matt.
That is Sam Shesso, and when we come back, we will focus on women's basketball. Casey Kleiner, the new assistant coach, will join us on this week's edition of Falcon Focus.
Since 1978, Lutheran Church Extension Fund has had the humble privilege of supporting the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod in fulfilling its mission of sharing the gospel.
Thanks to our faithful investors, we provided thousands of church workers, congregations, schools, and organizations with the resources they need to reach more people with the saving name of Christ. It's what we do.
Because our greatest joy comes from seeing LCMS Ministries and her workers thrive, we will continue to make precious resources available, both today and far into the future. It's our promise to you.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund. We want to be part of your great and exciting work.
Welcome back to this week's edition of Falcon Focus. One of the newest members of the Falcon family kind enough to join us, that being the new women's basketball assistant coach, Casey Kleiner, as the Falcons get ready for their home opener. They get North Central coming up on Wednesday at 7 p.m. A North Central team that won a couple of games last year. They've won 2 games already this year, so a great test for the Falcons. Already been battle tested through a couple of games, and then the NAC opener comes your way on next Tuesday, at Concordia, Chicago. And Casey, let's start with just getting to know you a little bit and your basketball background. Your earliest memory of playing basketball, and why did you choose to play the game of basketball?
Yeah, so I've been playing ever since I was little, second grade, third grade, kind of when I started. So obviously a huge competitor, love the game. That's obviously why I'm into coaching right now. So, background for me is, I've been South Milwaukee is my hometown, so super close over here. And, I just love the game and love being close to home right now, too.
So did you play other sports besides basketball? Has that always been your focus?
It's always been my focus. I was, kind of in grade school a little bit. I've been, cross-country volleyball. But in high school, it's been track and basketball, too. And then but mainly basketball, too, is my main focus. So
you mentioned high school, Shoreland Lutheran. Yep. You were a Pacer. Yep. What are your memories or highlights from your playing days with the Pacers?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, I was under Bruce Heckman. He was my coach for 3 years, and then Holly Barr took over for my senior year. Loved, it was a great experience. Won conference championships there in a tough conference. Almost made it to state, a couple games short for my junior and senior years. So, but just the atmosphere being there, being in that smaller school setting is awesome, and just the competitiveness at Shoreland was great experience. So
then you took your talents literally down the road to Carthage College. What made for you Carthage a good fit?
I think being closer that way to Shoreland and just the team atmosphere there, and then the coach as well, just building that relationship. And I mean, it's a beautiful campus, very similar to Concordia, being on the lake. So and just being in a competitive conference too.
And with Carthage, you're a part of some conference championship teams, NCAA tournament appearances. In your opinion, when you look back at your playing days with that program, what made those teams so successful, and maybe how did that experience, or how do those experiences help now shape you as the coach you are?
Yeah, I think just a lot of obviously hard work, and we were all competitive as players, and just being able to build that team chemistry off the court too, I think helped us. And, you know, I met some of my best friends on the team, so being able to come together through that really, you know, made us successful. And I think coming now as a coach, I kind of want that for my student athletes as well, and give them the same experience that I had.
So as a player at Carthage, what would you say your top moment was, or what was the top experience?
So I was actually just talking about this the other day. Was we played Hope School in the NCAA tournament, and we actually hosted it at Carthage. So being able to beat them, I think they didn't lose a game that year, and we're at full capacity in the stands. So being able to play in that game and win that game and move on to the Sweet 16 was awesome.
So if I'm going from playing to then the coaching ranks, did you always kind of aspire to be a coach after your playing days, or did that kind of fall in your lap?
Yeah, so looking back, college days, trying to figure out what I wanted to major in, a little undecided at first, and then talking with our assistant and GA at the time, kind of talking about their experience, kind of made me think, okay, this is something that I really would like to do. And the graduate assistant position was open at the time, and so I was able to do that, and from there I just fell in love with it.
Looking at your coaching background and stops, you mentioned being a grad assistant at Carthage, an assistant JV coach at Culver Stockton College. More recently, you were the assistant, also a strength and conditioning coach at Knox College. When you look at those various stops, you know, what have you learned from those opportunities? How have you grown in that time as a coach?
Yeah, and I think it's awesome being able to work under Coach Bernero at Carthage, but then also being able to work under so many other coaches and getting that experience of different different defensive sets. So getting that experience that is not just, you know, one thing I was learning at Carthage. So able to get that experience that way, and their different coaching philosophies and the way they do different things with the team during practices or even off season. And then I think that strength and conditioning part of Knox was helpful as well too. So I can kind of get that aspect of things and bring that over here as well.
And I'll talk about that in a second, because I do want to get your opinion on just maybe how the game has changed in that department when you look at just the emphasis now on the strength and conditioning, you know, aspects. But when you look at coaching, who do you say have been maybe the biggest influences in helping shape you as the coach that you want to be or are at this moment?
I would probably say my old assistant at Carthage was very helpful. She was assistant at Quincy. So just being part of that team too at Carthage, being so successful, came in my freshman year and kind of helped me move from one position to the next, for me being able to play in a game. So that kind of really inspired me that way, and had a couple connections through Culver Stockton with her too. So I think she would be my biggest influence for coaching.
Best advice you've ever received and or words of wisdom that you live by, whether as a player, now as a coach?
Yeah, so I think my best advice, or something I live by, is that, you know, you just got to shake it off. So in the game of basketball, you have to have a short memory. If you make a mistake, you got to shake it off, get something on the defensive end, or get something offensively easy basket. So just kind of mentally focus. If you make a mistake, shake it off and get the next one.
I read in your bio you can find on CUWFalcons.com that besides being a member of the Women's Basketball Coaches Association, you're also a USA Weightlifting Certified. What does that mean, and what does that entail?
Yeah, so it started back at Carthage. We were able to take the class for it, and it was intriguing that way because I was able to work with our team then. So I was really interested in doing that, to be able to work with, we had a full-time strength and conditioning coach there, so being able to work with him and being there for our team as well, so I can come in and kind of get more basketball-specific lifting for them. And then it just so worked out that at Knox, I was able to be a part of that as well. There I worked with a lot of different teams as well, so cross country and some other teams like that too. So I got to know them, and that was fun too, to know some other teams besides the basketball team.
Has weightlifting also always been a big part of your, you know, preparation for a season and just, you know, trying to get you in the right state of mind?
Yeah, it has been. And I think it's important for us to preseason just to have that bond, getting up early to lift if they can, and going through that and even maintaining it during the season too is important. So,
Do you feel, and this is where I wanted to go with this, it seems like, in some sports, that weightlifting and maybe the way athletes go about the whole weightlifting program has changed in maybe the last 10 years. Is that fair to say that there's been more of an emphasis in the strength and conditioning realm, maybe 10, 15 years? Has that become a bigger, preparation aspect for athletes than maybe it was a while back? Obviously, it was still a part of the whole preparation, but it seems like there's a bigger emphasis on just, shaping the body, getting yourself in that tip-top shape.
Yeah, I think it has been, and obviously, like you said, I think it's been growing over the years and getting more specific with sports as well. So getting different lifts in for basketball-specific sports and getting that explosiveness and being, able to. I mean, when you're coming from high school to college, it's a different game. It's a different beast. So being able to go from there and get stronger, get faster I think it is more of an emphasis throughout the years.
And now you're here at Concordia. What made this opportunity attractive to you?
Yeah, so Coach Brunner and I have been friends for a long time. And so when this kind of opened up, I was eager to come back home. I wanted to be closer to my family and to be able to, have games in the area. And I know Wisconsin, so recruiting-wise, that just seemed better for me as well. Concordia is a successful basketball program. Coach Brunner is a successful head coach, and just to be a part of that is truly something special, and I really wanted to be a part of that as well.
Of course, at this point, we sit here a couple of games into the season. You've been on the job now for a while, but what was the biggest adjustment? What has been the biggest adjustment, going from one job now to this position?
Well, last year at Knox, we played 3 games. So it's kind of been a little bit of 2 years off for me personally from basketball. So this past weekend, we were at Stevens Point, and just being able to travel again and being at the games, you kind of were like, oh, yes, this is how it feels like. This is what I'm ready to go, like ready for this new season. And obviously, it was an abnormal year last year. So I think just getting back in the swing of things.
That's crazy to think that tomorrow night you've already completed your season from last year. I mean, that's 3 games in.
Yeah.
Mentioned the team off to an 0-2 start, but you look at the competition, great competition here in non-conference play, all, in preparation for what we hope will be a great run through the NAC season. But you take a look back at this past weekend at the UW Stevens Point Classic, falling against a very good 18th-ranked Whitewater Warhawks team, and losing by 10 against host Stevens Point. I guess your takeaways from what you saw from the Falcons in those 2 games.
Yeah, so the 2 teams we played had a couple games under their belts already, and we were going in. First game of the season was Friday. So, always have to get those first game jitters out, which I think we did. We learned a lot, I think, just progressing from the first game to even our second game. And so that makes me even more excited for Wednesday, just because you can see the growth that we had from Friday to Saturday. So.
And when you look at the roster, a number of familiar names, some experience back, maybe in bigger roles or expanded roles here this winter. Has that factored in so far? Have you seen that experience? How's the leadership been to date?
Yeah, so leadership has been great with Emily Hafman, our fifth-year senior. She's really taken reins and bringing the girls in and really, getting that culture and those expectations that we have for them. So
at this point, I know it's only 2 games in, but what do you feel are the biggest strengths of this team when you look at, we can build around this? What's this?
I think we are big size-wise, which not many schools can say. So we are heavy in the post, which I think is exciting for us. So our post game, our inside-out game is going to be huge. And,
of course, the home opener coming up Wednesday. Your CCI conference, remember when you played at Carthage and North Central, certainly a program that you're familiar with from your CCIW days. And right now, as mentioned, North Central off to a 2-1 start, which included a victory against Edgewood on Saturday. what can fans that hope to come out or at least watch the game via the Falcon Athletic Network on Wednesday, what can they expect to see here inside the John Book Fieldhouse?
Oh, it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be tough. They run a lot. They attack the basket. But like I said, I think, being able to get inside out, push in transition is going to be huge. It's going to be a fun game.
I kind of touched on it already, and we'll wrap it up with this question. But, okay, this non-conference play. And as a player, what do you hope to get out of non-conference that maybe would carry over or you'd hope would carry over in the league competition?
Just getting that experience and just getting them out there with strong and athletic, players is good experience for us going into conference. Like I said, we'll learn a lot from this past weekend, so just getting some of our offense and defensive sets out there and being able to tweak some things before we head into conference.
Well, Casey, all the best here this winter. Appreciate your time here this morning.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's Casey Kleiner, the new assistant coach for women's basketball. And again, they'll be home for the first time this season. North Central College, the opponent. 7 o'clock will be the tip-off time here inside the John Book Fieldhouse on Wednesday. That will do it for this week's edition of Falcon Focus. Thanks for joining us. We'll do it again next week here on CUWFalcons.com.